Hey everyone, so this is my progression guide. It's a quite important video I wanted to make. It was my first one in French and it was quite a huge one already. I'm gonna talk about all the ways to be stronger and to try to unstuck from all the content because you're gonna realize quite quick that you're gonna be stuck on content, you're not gonna be able to win all the time, and that's something that's gonna happen every time, pretty much. It's how the progression works in the game. Sorry. And so you need all first to understand that you're gonna be stuck someday. It's bound to happen. But I'm gonna talk about all the ways, uh, vast majority of it anyway, to become stronger and to maybe try to unstuck yourself. It's gonna be more targeted to beginners, obviously, or people that maybe catch up on the game later on. For people that play since day one, it's not gonna be really interesting. So you can just maybe check the description for time codes that can be interested to you, or just leave the video. I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna be really interesting for you if you already know a ton of stuff. But for beginners, I think there are maybe interesting info. So first I'm gonna talk a bit about characters. I'm not gonna be too long about this because I think I'm gonna talk about it in details in a very specific video that covers more the tour of trials than anything, because it's the content where you try out the more your teams, your composition. But I'm gonna talk a bit about that. I'm gonna talk about the equipments, the armors and weapons, and how to craft them, and what to focus. I'm gonna talk about the fate system and the affinity with the characters that gives a ton of stats. It's a very important system in Tower of God, and you really need to grasp it very well. I'm gonna talk a bit about Skillups. I have another video that cover a lot of information about it, so I'm gonna talk quickly about it. I'm gonna talk about Shinsu Reinforcement, ignition weapons and collections, and I'm gonna end with God's Inventory. So let's go. So first, we're gonna talk about characters. So once again, I'm gonna talk more into details about all of this. But obviously, one thing I'm gonna talk about really quickly is to try really fast to understand what your character does, and one of the only way is to read the skills. I know it's a bit boring, but they are explained in great details, I think, and it's really good to understand it this way. There are two very important things for me to understand characters very well. Is first the passives. Every character's skill tree is a passive skill that's always active. By reading the passive, you can have a lot of indication about what your character is doing. If it increases damage in some way, it's very probably a DPS, a damage dealer. At the exception of some offensive supports that has also increased damage on passives, but all the other characters give their roles by just reading the passives. So already it gives a lot of indications to just read passives to understand your characters and their role. Also, another really important thing is that in Tower of God, every character starts the fight by launching their skill 2. So they all launch the skill 2. And so knowing that, you can understand that your character is gonna do skill 2, skill 1, and then X, the ultimate, when he's gonna have his bar full. And so by understanding that, you're gonna understand what your character is gonna do basically, and you can predict what he's gonna do in combat, and it's very important. So reading the passives to understand the role, and reading each skill knowing in which order they are gonna play out is really important to understand who is doing what and everything. So that's the first thing I'm gonna explain. And the second thing is that it's important to try to have composition, so some amount of healing, some amount of front line that gonna tank up the enemies to protect your units in the back that gonna maybe DPS or heal. But I'm not gonna explain it in details right now, because once again I'm gonna do a more specific video on that. But the things you want to know right now is to really take time for this. It's really important. And read the passives. You're gonna see that for a tank it's gonna increase the defensive stats. For DPS it's gonna increase damage as I showed you. And for supports it's gonna increase recovery, so healings. And it's already giving a ton of info in my opinion. So maybe take some time if you want to understand the things more, and if you just want to be straight up stronger, let's go to the next step. Also, one other thing that is really important about characters that already a lot of people know, but if you're a beginner, maybe you don't understand it quite well. It's the Transcendence. So the Transcendence system is that the more you're gonna get a character, the stronger you can level him up. He's gonna gain a star and he's gonna gain a special ability. So it's on the right, but you can also see it on the skills. It depends of each skills, but all characters it's the same pattern, meaning that on the first Transcendence it's gonna proc on the skill 1, on the second it's gonna proc on the skill 2, on the third it's always gonna proc on the passive, on the 4 it's gonna proc on the skill 1 again, on the 5 on the skill 2, and on the 6 on the ultimate. It's the same for everyone, but the buffs are different. And reading the Transcendence effect is really important to understand how strong a character can be with the Transcendence and why a lot of Transcendence are important. A lot of the time the T3 is really important for the passive effect. But some characters have big power spike at different effects. Like Kun, it's really good for the T5 that gives an healing over time, an heal over time. But that's something important to note. It's that you're gonna gain a lot of powers by just having the same character over and over. It's true for epics, but it's even stronger for legendaries. So obviously it's gonna depend on your summon, it's gonna depend on your luck and the money you're gonna invest in the game. But there is a ton of power that can be found in Transcendence. So now we're gonna talk about the equipments in the game. It's a huge way to increase your power because we're gonna see it, but equipment is shared across your characters, meaning that you can equip a single piece of equipment on all your characters. And so one really good piece of equipment can be game changing and help a ton. So for equipment you're gonna have one weapon. For weapons you have physical weapons and you have magical weapons. Both are gonna give attack that is a common stat that is really important. It's flat attack, it's really good. And physical weapons are gonna increase physical damage, and magical weapons are gonna increase magical damage. You can know which characters does what by either reading the skills or doing the equip all feature. And in this feature you can list by physical or by magical. And so with this you can see if a character is magical or physical. So it's really important to have a good weapon. It's gonna help a ton in the content, and we're gonna see how to acquire it and how to upgrade it. So you're gonna get all the first rarity by simply playing in the story or in Rise Spot and Tower of Trial. you're gonna end up having your first epic gear in the story that is gonna be a tier 1 epic gear. So it's good, but it's not the best, because you can also craft epic gear. So the craftable epic gear is gonna be the best one for now. And before talking about upgrading, I'm gonna talk about this. So first, for the craftable epic gear, for the craftable epic weapons, you're gonna be able to craft tier 2 that gives only physical or magical bonus and either crit or accuracy. This one is not really interesting. The ones you're gonna want to build are the tier 3. So these ones also give a position-based buff. So the position is one type your character is gonna have that is based on the webtoon, and you have to check beforehand which characters have what position. But the bonus is gonna be insane. It's gonna start at 10%, and we're gonna see it later. You can upgrade it. And so it's really important to really build a tier 3 weapon. And we're gonna first address how you can do this. So you're gonna need ingots that you will get by dismantling stuff. So it's quite easy to get. You're gonna have a ruby gemstone that you can drop. You can either drop the little ones in a lot of stuff, and you can build ruby gemstone this way. But you can also drop it in the admin, a game mod that I'm gonna cover in the later video that is gonna come out soon. So same for the fine essence. The fine essence, you can get them in rice pots. You can also get them in admin. So I will talk about admin in details. And the epic weapon recipe, this one you can get, you have to craft it. But to craft it, you need epic weapon recipe piece, and those you get either in admin. You can get them in Ricepot if you're lucky, but you can also buy them in the summon shop. It's quite expensive, so if you're fully free to play, it's gonna be hard to get. But you can also be patient, and you're gonna end up have them in admin in some time. So for the weapon, I'm gonna highly suggest wave controllers. I could tell you that it's gonna depend on the units you have and blah blah blah, but truth is, wave controller is the one for BAM and Vial. So first, they are obviously characters you're gonna play anyway, and BAM is an excellent damage dealer, and it's specifically an excellent damage dealer for admin. And since admin is the content where you get the components to craft other things, being really good in admin and having great score in admin is really important to craft stuff. And so focusing on BAM first is really good. And so I will highly suggest to build the wave controllers ones, the magic wave controllers one, this one. But you can maybe build this one if you have some strong fishermen. It's the other role that is really good for DPS. If you have like something like Ran, or maybe Yeon if you summon her, even if she's not really that good. But I will highly suggest this. You won't regret it. Trust me. So that for the craftable weapon. Then for armors. So one thing to understand for armors is that you have 4 pieces of armors. You have the helmet, you have the torso, the armor, you have the gloves, and you have the boots. They each give a different main stat. So the helmet gives HP, the armor gives defense, the gloves gives HP, and the boots give defense. And then the substats they're gonna give depends on the one you're gonna craft. So there are families that gonna match and give some similar buffs, but there are also gonna have buffs that depends on the type of equipment you're gonna build. And I'm gonna talk about which one to focus and, in my opinion, the best, even if there are no very objective answers right now. So first I'm gonna talk about the armor because it's the first one I will suggest to craft. For the order of crafting, I will suggest to start with armor, into helmets, into gloves, into boots. There are several reasons, and I'm not gonna explain every bit of them, but for me it's the best order. The torso is the first obvious choice because first it gives defense in main stat, and defense is extremely important. And second, it's gonna give damage resist, and damage resist is gonna allow you to survive and to not just get one shot. And so it's just gonna allow you to play the content basically. So the torso, the armor is very important. The one I'm gonna suggest you to craft is the general shiny uniform. You're gonna prefer magic resist in the game, especially early game. Overall, you're gonna take a ton of damage from magic damage, from magic sorcerers, I should say. Again, evasion can be quite good. I can't be 100% objective about this if I'm honest with you, because you have also this one that gives crit resist, and since we don't have the exact calculation behind the scenes in the code, we don't know them yet, and so I can't tell you 100% that evasion is better, but evasion gives you a chance to not take any damage, to have the miss effect where the enemy miss attacks. And so if you stack a lot of evasion, you can create a bit of randomness in your fights, and that can allow you to maybe steal some fights that you shouldn't win. And so that's why I think evasion is good in a game where you can retry infinitely. Because if you're stuck in a level, you can retry it until you win. Sometimes it's not going to be close and you're not going to be able to, obviously, but evasion is a stat that is good in my opinion because of this. Because you can just retry and just steal stuffs that you shouldn't win otherwise. So first, for the armors, this one, obviously. The general shiny. To craft it, it's very similar than the weapon. Just you have this thing, the epic armoris IP, that is a bit different. In a way that it's also a thing that you should craft, but this one you get also in Ricepot and in admin, but you can get them in the PvP shop, the Ranker workshop, and that's very easy to do early game. If you can just get few achievements in the PvP shops or even free daily rewards, you're gonna be able to buy some of those. And since the PvP shop doesn't have a ton of really good things to buy, it can be interesting to have your first armor with the PvP shop, the Ranker workshop. Otherwise, it's really similar than the weapons. The other stuff you get in admin and Ricepot. And I'm gonna suggest you to focus this one. I'm gonna be quicker for the others. Then for the helmet, I'm gonna suggest this one once again. For similar reasons, magic resist that is very good, evasion once again, and crit damage resist that is very good. You have a ton of units that gonna deal crit damage to you later on. Then for the gloves are really good, but not for defensive stats, but for offensive stats. So attack speed is quite a huge stat. It doesn't sound like much like this, but it decides also how fast you're gonna act in a fight, which one of you is gonna start first, if like it's in PvP, but also in Tower of Trial. And so attack speed can be quite detrimental for a lot of content. And it's an important stat. Evasion once again, and crit damage boost is an extremely important stat, and it's gonna make your gloves be an offensive tool more than defensive tool. You can craft, if you want, the crit ones that are more axed to pure damage, but I really like attack speed ones. These ones are not trolled by any means, and you can build those if you want. Similar things with the boots. I will suggest the general shiny ones. again for attack speed, evasion, and debuff resist. But you can also get these ones for the crits that are also good to pure offensive stats. These are the two options. You're gonna see that I have a full general shiny, but you're really not forced to copy me in any way, because this option is also playable. Now for upgrading. So upgrading is really important. Once again, since your equipment is gonna be shared to all your characters, every bit of stats you're gonna improve is gonna affect all your team. Also, in this game, flat stats, base stats are really important, because all your abilities are gonna use base stats and uses them exponentially. And so when you have good base stats, you're gonna have huge damage and everything. So first, for the weapon, the base stats is always attack, as I said. It's really important, so you can upgrade it by just upgrading the level. I would suggest to, even for tier 3, try to stop at 25, because higher is really hard and can cost a lot of things. Also, I didn't talk about it on the crafts, but obviously you need gold to craft things, and you need gold to upgrade things, and you need gold for everything, and so you're gonna lack gold, because everyone lack gold in this game. And so yeah, upgrading is gonna cost a lot of gold, and you're gonna end up missing on gold. It's normal. There is no way in the game to really farm gold, and so if you expected this in this video, you're not gonna find one, sadly. But even if it costs a lot, it costs a lot of gold. Trust me, improving your equipment can be really important, but don't rush it. Don't put one single piece 25. It costs higher and higher, but the upgrade gaps are not that huge. So upgrading the weapon is really important. But for armors, for example, I suggest you should level your gear at the same level each time. So for example, torso, the armor, and the boots give defense for the two. And so one thing you can do is to put levels in both, and to just get them at the same level each time. Same for gloves and helmet. Do not just put one 25 and one level 10, it's stupid. You should like do the two level 20 or something like this, because it's gonna cost a lot of resources to do 25, and you should move by stages, if you see what I mean. So that's for the upgrade. It's gonna change the material. It's gonna be harder and harder, and it's gonna cost a ton of gold. And also you can fail, obviously. But you should upgrade your stuff. For the weapon, it's gonna give a ton of offensive stats. It's only giving attack, but as I said before, it's really impactful. Then for the substats, the things in orange, you can increase them by transcending your gear. So Transcendence costs Transcend stones, obviously. And Transcend stones is obtained by dismantling gear. So if you try to dismantle... Okay, I don't have... If I unlock this thing. If you try to dismantle purple thing, it's gonna always give Transcend stone. And for blue, it's a chance to get blue things, and same for green. And same for gray and anything, but that you probably already know. And so it's really important to understand that Transcendence is very important for tier 3 equipments, and you should absolutely transcend your weapons if you get some. My take on this is that you're gonna get some purple weapons that can be used for the God's Inventory. We're gonna talk about this feature at the end of the video, but quickly, I'm gonna say that I think early on you should dismantle the purple stuff you get to transcend your stuff, because it's gonna improve a ton your statistics. And once again, it's on all your characters, so it's extremely important. So it's gonna cost more and more each time you're gonna transcend it. And it's gonna improve the substats, the orange stats, by a ton. And since it's in percent damage, it's gonna increase a ton of DPS and anything. So you really want to improve your gear like this. And same for For armors, you're gonna focus armor and then helmet into gloves and lastly boots. So it's because the substats are more interesting this way, and so you should improve them in this way in my mind. And lastly, the refining portion. So the refining is the reason you're gonna sometimes see unidentified on your items if you have some purple gear. And what it's gonna do is that it's gonna pull from this table a substat that is gonna improve your weapon basically, or your armor. And so you have different rarities. You have blue, you have purple, and you have legendary. So common, uncommon, or legendary, or rare, epic, and legendary. And that's the little variation in stats you can see, the minimum and maximum. You can get all stats in all rarities, and you can also get some specific stats based on the faction. So the thing I'm gonna suggest here is to either for weapons to try to get attack is really good, or maybe ignition damage boost can be really good for admin. But attack is really good everywhere. You can get general attack for all your characters, or you can get something specific to your DPS. So for BAM, since it's the wave control weapon, I have tower climber attack, and it helps me a lot. And for my fisherman weapon, I have great family because my fisherman units are great family. So so you shouldn't refine a ton to just get perfect stats. As you can see, I have blue a lot because I'm quite unlucky and I got a lot of bad stats. But you shouldn't spend everything on this. But getting one good substats for a weapon, for example, is good. And you should you should absolutely stop if you get one good stat. Don't greed too much, because it's gonna be really important for legendary gear later on, and you don't want to spend everything on this. But it can be important to have at least some interesting stats. And for armors, I'm gonna suggest to try to get defense, or defense that is specific to maybe your tanks. If you use Young, for example, is gonna be a tower climber, and Sith's Bam is also a tower climber. It can be a great idea to have a tower climber defense, but generic defense is really good. And there I just got a legendary, so I kept it. But you can also reroll bad legendaries if you get like a thug crit resist or something like this. Even this one I should reroll honestly, but I got so unlucky that I didn't. And so once again, defense is really good. So I kept just base defense on those for this reason. So after those long 20 minutes talking about equipments, now we're gonna talk about, for me, the second most important thing to gain power in the game. It's the fate system, or the affinity system. And it's extremely important. So I'm gonna try to be clear about it. I know a lot of people don't understand it very well, and it's extremely important. So if you feel like you don't understand it well, really try to grasp it early, because it's gonna be extremely important. So the fate system is a system that is gonna revolve around one character, and all the character around it having relations with him. And so you have two things. You have the relation with the main characters. So for now, Bam and Viol, but we're gonna have later on other characters. It's a bit of a spoiler, I'm sorry. That's why maybe some characters you don't have affinity yet. It's because it can come with the later characters. And so affinity is gonna give two things. It's gonna first give. I'm gonna reset. Don't mind me yet. it's gonna first give stats to the selected characters. So that means the character that is above, with his name and face, it's gonna give characters to only this guy. So how it is that the 5 first level give to the selected characters, and next to this you have the 5 next level that gives to all characters. If there is nothing there, it means that it is all characters, and so it seems to be little stats, but since it's on all characters, it's gonna add up. It's gonna be a lot in the end, and so it's gonna be like this: selected character, all characters, selected characters, all characters, selected characters, all characters. And so what that means is that to get the best use of this system, you have some things to understand. First, the first thing is that if you want to buff a specific character, one big strategy is gonna be to get him to, obviously you can get him to level 5. Also, I forgot to say that it's gonna also increase the stats to the specific characters it's attached to. So in this category is BAM, and in the other one it's Vial. But is also gonna be affected by all character stats. So BAM and Vial are gonna buffed twice. That's why it's gonna end up the best characters on your account. That's what you saw maybe early on with my equipments. So the first strategy is gonna be to increase one specific character's strengths. So you're gonna do this with characters you play everywhere and that you want to invest resources in. So for example, Kun AA is very strong early on. And so what you can do is to increase him first to level 5, obviously. But then you're gonna increase him to level 10. All these stats are gonna be for all characters, but we're gonna talk about this later on. Level 10 is gonna give to everyone a bit of stats, and to BAM some supplementary stats. And then what you want to do is to try to aim for first the level 13. So why level 13? It's because it gives defense, and defense is a really important stat. And so for characters that you play, you should aim for level 13 and not higher, because higher is gonna cost a lot of resources, and resources are really important in the game. So for characters that you're gonna aim for level 13. Then you have the other category, is the category of characters you're not specially gonna play, but you want to gain stats on all your characters. For this, you have different stages. So you are forced to increase it level 5, and it's not gonna give to all characters, only to BAM. But then at level 6, it's gonna impact everyone. And the level 6 substats is the most important one, because it's very cheap to get, and it's the best buff. That means that it's interesting to target specifically the level 6. So for example, what you want to do if you're a beginner is to upgrade a ton of characters to level 6. You can see that mine are level 10 because I have a lot of failed gifts. But you can do what you can do is to have all your characters first level 6, just like this, and you're gonna increase every characters just level 6, and you're gonna scrap a ton of stats like this. So also one thing is that you're gonna require the specific characters to do this. So if you don't have it, it's gonna be hard, because you need to either have luck and drop it, or use an epic selector to get it. And that you're gonna realize really early when you're gonna have to do the revolution road, and they need you to have specific fate levels with characters. And first you need to only have the unit, but later on you need to have the unit Transcendence 1, Transcendence 2, and up to Transcendence 4. And so this requires summon and it requires luck, so it's it's a bit of an harsh system, I feel like. But yeah, you need the characters to increase it. But if you have the characters, you can upgrade it level 6, and it's gonna give a ton of stats. What you want also to aim for is for epic characters, because epic characters are twice cheaper than the legendaries. Legendaries just cost twice as much. And so you want to aim first for the epics because it gives the same stats, like 40 defense there and 40 defense there, but it's just twice as expensive. So you really want to aim for epic characters, and you want to aim for level 6 first. When you're done with level 6 on every characters or every epic, you can do every legendaries level 6. And when you're done on that, what you can do is every legendary obviously needs you to have the legendary, so it's quite harder to do, obviously. You can do level 9 if you only aim for the stats, but you can do level 10 if you also get BAM stats. What I would suggest is for BAM, you can get level 10 early on. For Vial, it's not that important, but remember that you're gonna end up using Vial anyway. So I see a lot of players completely ignoring Vial. It can be a strategy very early on, but if you start reaching difficult levels and everything, Vial has a lot of great tools, and so you don't want to ignore him completely. And long term, you're gonna only play him later on. So is a really important unit, but that's a topic for another time, I feel like. So you want to really focus on level 6, then really focus on level 10. And when you level 10, what you want to do is to either keep upgrading the characters you play to level 13, or what you need to do is level 16. So level 16 is the same thing than level 6. It's gonna give you a ton of base stats on every characters. So you're gonna see that I'm doing 18 because 18 is giving OC crit damage boots. You can also do 18, but keep in mind that 16 is way cheaper. So if you don't have a lot of gifts, it can be easier to do 16. But if you struggle with Starlight, this resource, you can do 18, because Starlight is only for Affinity grade up, while gifts are for levels. Also, I didn't talk about how we get all this stuff. Gifts you get in a ton of places, honestly. It's very limited the amount you get daily, but you get in a ton of places. And Starlight you pretty much don't get anywhere. You get them in Revolution Road a bit. You can buy them in the family shop, but the family shop has a ton of great stuff. And also you get them in some events, and they are very important. So keep in mind that the Starlights are a very important resource. And so that's how you should upgrade your fate. I know that maybe it was a bit hard to understand, and I'm sorry if it's a bit complicated, but it's a really important system. You should really take time to understand it. Once again, very important system. It changed so much the power of your team. I can't stress it enough. And take time to understand it, take time to optimize it. Especially for now, we can reset characters for free. So this is a feature that got added because they changed the system, but it's not supposed to stay free forever. So while it is free, use it a ton. Really use the reset while it's free. For anyone watching the video afterwards, good luck. And yeah, I talked a ton about the fate system. When you're gonna have more gifts, you can improve your character's level. 23 is the same than 13. It gives a lot of defense and it's really important. and 25 is for people that got way too many gifts, because it's very expensive. Obviously 1% damage resist is good, but it's extremely expensive. I don't suggest to go level 25s yet. You should aim for level 23 first, and focus more on improving all your characters to level 10, to level 16, to level 18, and everything. So I hope you understood some things. I know I took a lot of times, and I know it's quite hard to understand maybe, but once again, really important stuff. So now we're gonna talk about skill ups. So skill ups, they are very important. They use resources that are quite important as well, books and gold, a lot of gold. And so you have to use them well, because you can't reset them. And it's very easy to spend them on bad characters and on not really useful skills. So what I'm gonna do is to redirect you towards either the video, because I did another video talking about every skill priority, because it really depends on every characters. Mostly, a lot of the times, you're gonna focus on the passive, and afterwards you're gonna focus on the skills that your characters uses the best, or skills that improves the best by leveling, because you're gonna see the effects with levels on every skill. And if you count the effects, you're gonna realize that every skill is not equal. Like this one gives 5% damage because it's an AoE skill, but Bam, a lot of the times you're gonna use him for single DPS because you're gonna use him in admin, and so it's better to scrap it's 15% damage there than 5% damage there. So that's why the priority list exists. I suggest you to check it out. I'm gonna put it in the description. And to just talk about skills a bit, it's gonna be important to get TR you use to 4. It's the max without this resource that is very hard to get, so don't think about it too much yet. The TR you uses, and you uses a lot, put them level 4. It's very important to focus this. Level up the passive, that is very important. And then I suggest you check the file I've sent to check which ones are the most important. You should overall level up all the skills for base characters, especially for DPS. On some characters you can ignore some skills, because they are not very useful for the role of the character. For example, for Orion, that is a tank, you should really focus on the passive, and the rest is to scrap damages. And there I have them level 5, but I should have kept them level 1, honestly. And if you see on characters of mine that has bad skill management, it's obviously because in the beginning I didn't understand the skill thing very well, and so I did a ton of mistakes. And don't copy me by any means. Try to maybe more listen more to the stuff I've done on the file, on the guide, on the skill priority guide. And but keep in mind that you shouldn't add focus on one skill. The priority thing is mostly for the ones you're gonna focus first, but you're gonna end up anyway level them up a bit later on, because since it's costing more and more and more, you don't want to lose a ton of resources by just going really hard with one skill or anything. But for passive, it can be really good. I have like characters like Yeon that does the passive at an insane level, because it's gonna increase the damages a ton. But mostly I would suggest to keep small level gaps between your skills, following the priority orders I gave you. And tier, be really careful with tier. Obviously only upgrade it if you have the weapon, but also if you are using the TR, because not all TRs are great. You cannot activate every TR at the same time. Once again, I'm gonna talk about ignition in the later video that's gonna come out soon, I hope. But it's a system that needs to be understood before sinking too much resources into it. And you should only play the strongest TRs you got, and not every character deserves to upgrade their TRs. So for DPS overall, it's really good. But for some characters it's not that good, especially for supports. But I would talk about it later on. And for the ones you should use or anything, it's a bit indicated on the skill priority guide, but I can't talk about every TR, obviously. So now Shinsu Reinforcement. So Shinsu Reinforcement is based on the position. So the position is one thing that is indicated under the character's name, so you have to check it if you don't know the webtoon well, and even if you know the webtoon well, some can be surprising, to say the least. But mostly it's really following the webtoon. And so positions are only used for epic weapons and for this system, so the Shinsu Reinforcement. So for Shinsu Reinforcement, you have some things to keep in mind. The first thing is obviously you're gonna focus the thing you have the most, so Wave Controller and Fisherman. But it's not gonna allow you to only focus one category, and it's gonna force you to get other categories to a minimum level. So every 15 level, you're gonna need 30 level on the subcategories, on all categories. So don't put points everywhere, because categories like positions like spare bearer are very useless. That's just how the game is, and that's kinda how the webtoon is. But there are not a lot of spare bearers, and especially good spare bearers. So you're not gonna use them a lot. So don't improve this. Just improve it to the bare minimum. But for the other ones, you can improve it quite a lot. It's only giving some substats. You can feel like it's not a ton, but once again, base stats are really important. So don't forget, don't absolutely forget this thing. Keep using your resources there, and upgrade the most important stuff. I don't have a lot of things to say. Focus Wave Controller obviously first. You can also focus Fisherman if you got a lot, but I focused it because I have a lot of Fisherman. But if you have more Wave Controller, obviously focus this. And the other two really depends on some legendaries that can be good, but mostly it's those two that are the most important. Now for ignition weapons. So ignition weapon, there are some things to talk about. I'm gonna try to be quick because the video is gonna be insanely long. First thing, there are different rarities, so gray, green, blue, purple, and legendaries. So the most important one are legendaries, because they allow you to TR, they allow your character to use the ignition skill. Only legendary characters have ignition skill, but you need either the weapon of the character to use it, or faction weapon. Faction weapon can be equipped to all the characters in the faction, or the specific character's weapon can be equipped to only the specific character. They are very important because some TR are very good, but also because they give a ton of stats. They give attack first, and attack is really important. They can be upgraded to give more attack, like this one. As always, upgrade is very random, and it can be hard to have good levels, but it's important to get attack buff. And also they give each weapon gives a stat. So this stat can be important. The ones that affect Shinsu skill are normal skills like skill 1 and skill 2. So you can have these stats that are quite important, but also you have all these stats that depends of the Transcend level of the weapons. So obviously legendary weapons are really hard to transcend, but you can have epic weapons that are a bit easier to get, and it's gonna give attack speed that is already important, and it's gonna buff the skill also. So early on you're gonna use epic weapons. I suggest you put the messenger bag. You're probably gonna have a ton, or any other ones that decreases incoming damage on all your front line and supports. And I suggest you put something that increases damage on every DPS, or something that increases boss damage on every admin DPS. So don't improve a ton of weapons just because you want to optimize this. It costs a lot of resources, and you're gonna want them for legendaries, because legendaries are way important, way better than epic ones. But obviously you can improve some weapons for this. And for legendaries, you're gonna get a ton of different stats. The one that's gonna catch the eye the most is the ignition time in seconds. Is gonna give 4 more seconds for the ignition, so for the big transformation effect that makes your character really strong. But the other stats are also important. But I would say all these stats are very based on luck and what you're gonna get, and you shouldn't focus on it at all, and you shouldn't really summon for this, or if you are spending a ton of money. And for ignition weapon, the other thing that is very important is the collection effect. So the collection effect is a thing where you get a bonus based on the collection you have. So for gray weapons, you just have to have the weapon, and you're gonna have a collection bonus based on every 2 weapons you get, and you need 12 to have everything. So I'm missing one, but maybe I'll get it. On the green, you're gonna need to have all 12 weapon once again. So it's gonna give some base stats. Once again, base stats are very important, so you need to get those. But for those, you only need to have the weapon once, so it's very easy. For blue, you're gonna start to not only have the weapon, so having the weapon is gonna already give you stats, but also transcending the weapon is gonna give you bonus stats. And every 2 weapons you get to T3, you're gonna get bonus stats. And so you want something like this. It's to have every weapon tier 3 before you do any fusion. And I'm saying this, it's very important. Before you do any fusion, I know it can be it can be some temptation to fuse and to try to get something, but focus the collection effect. You won't regret it. You can maybe not fuse it right now because Transcendence takes a ton of gold, but you can keep the weapon and just fuse the ones you have in bonus, because you can only T3 it, and wait gold to transcend it, because it costs a lot of gold, so don't waste all your gold on this. But keep the weapon, please keep the weapon. You're gonna regret it if you fuse them all up. And it's gonna be the same for epic weapons. You want them all T3, so it's gonna take a ton of time, but it gives a ton of stats. And once again, do not fuse. Do not fuse. Absolutely wait. It can be interesting to fuse weapons to get legendary weapons, but you have to wait to have everything tier 6 and be very patient, because it's a ton of stats and you don't want to miss out on them. I know it takes a long time, but that's how it is. And that's very important. It also exists for legendary weapons, but obviously it's out of our control if you're gonna have all of them tier 3 and tier 6 and everything. But it still gives some stats, so it can be interesting to get weapons this way. And lastly, God's Inventory is probably a feature that you already explored a bit because you need it in the Revolution Road. But God's Inventory gives you specific stats for a specific faction when you complete sets. So to complete sets, you need to just add the weapon that is required there. So first, they are gonna need you to simply put simple stuff, even level 1 and everything. And I don't know where you put the ones I already did, but I know it's somewhere. And so it's gonna give you stats based on, okay, it's there. It's gonna give you stats based on the things you completed. So there it's give accuracy, tower climber accuracy. First you're gonna need just simple stuff, but later on you're gonna need to transcend it. And when you transcend it, what is important to understand is that for every transcend level, you're gonna need the item level 5. So what that means is that, simple example, to add a weapon that is required to be, I don't know, like this one, tier 2, tier 3, you're gonna need first to upgrade it. So you're gonna need to upgrade it level 5. When it's gonna be upgraded level 5, you're gonna be able to transcend it to 2 stars, because on level at first you can transcend it once. So level 5 you're gonna be able to transcend it twice. And then for the tier 3 you're gonna need to have it level 10. And it's the same for next ones, obviously. And so what you want to do is to upgrade each thing to the specific level and add it when it's done. There are tons of specificities, like some weapon is gonna be hard to get. You can check in hunting where to get it. It's gonna say on which Tower of Trial level you can get it. The hunting thing is really good to see where to get each thing, so definitely use this. And for the stats, how it works is that you have 5 rubrics. The event ones is only for people that spend money, but for other ones you have 4 things that are specifics to factions. So this one is specific to Tower Climber, this one is specific to Great Family, this one is specific to Thug, and this one is specific to Freedom Dreamer. And so there are 2 things. There are the specific stats that are given by the sets, and there are the level effects. The level effects is the it's a global level per category that are gonna increase all your characters' stats. So damage boost for Pocket, damage resist for Kranos, crit damage boost for Thorn, and this one is crit damage resist for Wingtree. So what you want to do is to obviously focus the ones of the Revolution Road, so Pocket and Thorn for Bam and Vial for now. But you can also get some bonus stats on this one, like I did. It can be interesting. And you can also get the bonus stats on Pocket and Thorn. It's also very interesting because you get obviously damage there. But if you are using a ton of Great Family units, you can improve this. Keep in mind that later on later Revolution Road, it's gonna ask you to upgrade those, so don't think it's lost leveling them up. In the end, we're gonna need to level everything, you imagine. So it's never lost to use this. But I just wanted to talk about it because you can get stats there, and it's still interesting. Once again, base stats adds up and end up to be quite interesting. And it was just a quick reminder for some people. Okay, so that's it for this big progression guide. I know it's a long video, but I still wanted to do something like this to just have a lot of the important core mechanics in the game explained in some way on the channel. If there are still stuff that you have maybe trouble understanding and that I could do a better job explaining and everything, feel free to tell me in the comments. Or if you also wished that I covered some things in the video, maybe it will be the subject to future videos. And anyway, I hope you will all have a great time on the game, and see you.